Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Well, welcome everybody to the Must Read Alaska show, coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. And the show is a little bit late today. We usually do it at 9 in the morning. We're already in the afternoon, but it is the day before our big primary election here in Alaska, and also our special general election. And wanted to wait and make sure that we had Nick Begich III available today. And so he's finally available. He just got off the phone with the Wall Street Journal. Is that correct, Nick?
That's true. Yep. I was just doing an interview with them.
And so we're so glad you could fit us up. We'll try to keep this short, but we really appreciate you joining us today. And for everybody out in Facebook, thank you for joining us here on the Must Read Alaska show. It's something we really enjoy doing. If you could like and share this interview, that would be great. We really appreciate that. And of course, I appreciate everything that all of you do to keep our state free and our nation free, to support our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, and all the amendments. And to just be great Americans and be a force for good out there, because that's the motto of Must Read Alaska, be a force for good. So Nick Begich, you're here with the Must Read Alaska show. Welcome. And we just are so privileged that you had time day before the election to join us and to talk to us a little bit about what the last few days have been like for you. And I sent you a note and we said we were going to start with Ketchikan, but first, how's everything going? Just tell us how things are going.
Oh, it's going really well. We're getting a lot of support out there. You know, throughout the state, people are super excited about this race. They're excited about the opportunity to be represented in Congress again and be hopeful again about the future of our state. You know, we have so many resources that we're blessed with here in Alaska, whether that be oil or gas or coal, critical minerals, precious metals, base metals, rare earths down in Southeast, and timber, right, and fishing, and of course the resource of tourism. We have so many resources in Alaska, and people are excited about the opportunity to open up the state and do more with what we've been given.
You know, we haven't really talked about what we were going to talk about so much today, other than we're going to just talk about where you've been the past week, because I know you've been crisscrossing the state. But, you know, one thing I don't think a lot of people know about you is that you actually have an active mining claim here in Alaska. And you'd like to see more minerals developed all over the state for things like this new, the new various energy aspects that we have going on. They all need minerals for them. And
oh, they do.
Alaska,
and that's right. It's so in fact duplicitous of the left to be calling for more so-called green energy and then be shutting down mining throughout the state and throughout the nation. You know, I really sort of question, where do they think these resources come from? We all walk around with a phone in our pocket or our purse, right? We've got our vehicles that we're driving. We've got our homes that we live in. Those are resources. And if they're not being produced in a place like Alaska, they're being produced in a place like Afghanistan, right? Or
by
Iran.
Children.
Yeah, by children. That's right. They have very little regard to the environment. They have very little regard to labor laws. And yet the left wants to say, hey, out of sight, out of mind, right? Mm-hmm. They think they're doing good by shutting it down where it's done best. And, I think calling out the left, and that's something that I've done throughout the campaign, is an important part of the job for Alaska's sole U.S. House member. So it's been good. It's been encouraging out there on the trail. I do own a copper prospect, part of a copper prospect in the Wrangell St. Elias National Park. It's 820 acres approximately of patented mining ground, and very promising. And there are prospects like that throughout the state of Alaska. Some are patented, some have yet to be discovered. But the only way that we're going to be able to access those resources if we start reforming the permitting laws and start adding rails and road and port infrastructure to the state of Alaska.
So speaking of that, I know you were at a forum today in Anchorage, and you were at a forum for, was it at ConocoPhillips today forum? And tell us about the forum. So was it you, Mary Peltola, and Sarah Palin?
Well, it's interestingly enough, there were two of us there. It was myself and Mary Peltola. Once again, Sarah Palin was absent. They even had a slide up there, Sarah Palin, parentheses, absent. And that's sort of consistent with what we've seen throughout the campaign. She spent a great deal of time out of state. I think here in the last couple of weeks, she spent time down in Minneapolis to have a fundraiser. She went down to Dallas, I think, for a few days, and we just haven't seen much of Sarah Palin on the campaign trail. It's very rare that we actually encounter each other. In fact, there's been a number of media interviews that I've done, and they've said, look, we'd love to talk to Sarah Palin, but she's unwilling to talk about the race, her background, or the state's issues with us. And I don't know how you can possibly represent the state of Alaska if you're not willing to talk to national and international media. That's the case we're trying to make for the state.
Yeah.
And she's absent from the conversations, I believe, because she's more worried about what they're going to say about her than what they're going to write about Alaska.
Right. So how'd it go there at the ConocoPhillips? Is that for employees, or what was that for?
That's for employees and retirees at ConocoPhillips. And it was good. It was a wide-ranging discussion that we had. It was an opportunity to contrast some of the obvious policy differences that myself and Mary Peltola have. It's a lot of good questions about social issues, questions about resource development, questions about what we would do down in the Congress to actually advance in a meaningful way the interests of our state. So it was good. It was about an hour session. And, there are a lot of these sorts of sessions across the state that we've participated in. In fact, here a couple weeks ago, we were down on the Kenai. And once again, Sarah Palin was absent from that discussion as well. It was just myself.
That was the Chamber of Commerce forum down in the Kenai, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And so, again, you can't make the case to Alaskans that you're going to be their voice if you're silent when you're campaigning for office.
Well, now let's turn to Mary Peltola for a minute. When she was on the Kenai, I very distinctly heard her say that she did not think there was anything that we could do to open up ANWR, that she thought we'd done everything we could do and it was over.
That's correct.
Did she say that today? Did she also say that today?
No, it was a different story today. But yes, okay. You're correct. Down on the Kenai, she made mention that she believed that ANWR was unprofitable and that therefore it shouldn't move forward.
Right.
And my view is no politician should be telling us what project is profitable and what's not. That's what the exploration and development process proves up to determine whether something is profitable or not profitable as a resource. And that's true in mining and it's true in oil and gas. And so, you need those decisions to be made by private industry and by experts in those fields. And those experts do not exist within government. It's not government's job to tell us what works financially and what doesn't.
Very interesting. So now let's just switch for a minute to your schedule, which has been, I know we've got to move quickly for you because you've got other people to talk to today besides Must Read Alaska. How about tell us what you heard when you were down in Ketchikan last week?
Yeah, so we were in Ketchikan here just this last week, and we've been all over the state, by the way. We've been in Valdez, Fairbanks, Ketchikan, Kodiak, Willow, Wasilla, Anchorage, obviously. We've traveled the state extensively throughout the campaign, but down in Ketchikan, the big topic, it seems to be on everybody's mind, is this so-called bridge to nowhere. Now, the bridge to nowhere, right, is actually a bridge to the airport. And that airport sits on Gravina Island, and there is a tremendous amount of developable land there, okay? Now, there happens to be a housing crisis in Ketchikan.
Yeah.
People cannot afford to buy starter homes and their first homes there. It's just gotten too expensive because there's not enough land available in large part. Now, if we had the bridge all this time, that would not be an issue. And likely the population in Ketchikan would be much greater than it is today. But unfortunately, Sarah Palin, under her governorship, her 2-year term as governor, killed the funding for that bridge and then claimed that she didn't spend the money. Of course, that's not true. She took the money anyway and spent it on other priorities for her. But the people of Ketchikan missed out on a great infrastructure opportunity.
So they remember this then?
Oh, yeah, they absolutely do. It was a topic on everybody's minds that we spoke with in Ketchikan. And we spoke with radio. We spoke with the newspaper. We had 2 events and some other meetings while we were there. And we did all of that within about 6-7 hours on the ground.
My goodness. So Ketchikan is one of the places I really love. My dad used to live there. And so I visited there a lot when I was younger. And it is a great part of the state. And if you're watching from Ketchikan, I just love Ketchikan, and I can't wait to get back and see all my friends there. So lucky you got to go there last week. Now, you also went to Valdez last week. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, my campaign manager's been just working tirelessly. And so I got behind the wheel and drove to and from Valdez from my home in Peters Creek. And we went down there. We were in the parade. I did door knocking myself because we had some free time as we were waiting for the parade to get started. And great reception. I love Valdez. You know, it's one of these places that's just got so much unique character and history. And you find that in coastal Alaska, particularly as you're traveling all the way down into Southeast and all the way back up through Cordova and into Valdez and beyond.
Beautiful drive.
Just beautiful, just amazing.
Drive. Yeah, I don't know which drive I like the best, the drive to Kenai or the drive to Valdez. They're both so incredible. And you just think we are so blessed to live in this land. So to all our friends in Valdez, a big shout out if you're watching. Really appreciate you tuning in. Now, where else have you been? I know you were in Fairbanks early last week, some point.
Yep. So the very next morning after driving to and from Valdez, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I flew to Fairbanks, and we had another set of meetings there. Did radio again, and then did some interviews, and then over to an event at just an absolutely stunning home there in Fairbanks. And, people in Fairbanks are really concerned about making sure that we have ongoing development, particularly as it relates to oil and gas. Energy issues, of course, are always a challenge in Fairbanks, making sure that we can do everything we can do to mitigate the cost of high energy in the interior. Right. But it's really amazing, too, because as you travel the state, you get a real appreciation for the local issues. And a lot of folks, out there, in particular, and maybe one in this race, thinks you can paint Alaska with one broad brush, but it doesn't work that way. In many respects, we're multiple states sort of combined into one, with different issues and different challenges depending on where you happen to be in Alaska.
No, that's really true, because in Juneau, for instance, they have Snettisham Dam, and they've got the Salmon Creek Dam, and they've got a hydro down there, and they're really doing great things with hydro in Southeast because they have hydro. And up in Fairbanks, they don't have hydro. They're going to be dependent on oil. You're not going to be able to run that city on solar energy. And that's just never going to work in Fairbanks or anywhere in the northern tier of Alaska. And in the southern tier, we have rain. I don't know that solar energy does that much good either. I mean, there are alternatives, and I know that we're all exploring them, and that in the next 20 years, there'll be things that we haven't heard of. But right now, Fairbanks is looking at a winter where they're going to be spending a good $1,500 a month to heat their homes. And that's a scary thought when it starts getting to be that expensive.
It's very expensive. It's a great concern, because what happens is in Alaska, the resources that we have, the natural resources that we have, are not located in our largest population center. They're not in Anchorage. They're in the rural parts of Alaska. And if it's too expensive to live out there, then we're going to have a really hard time having a population in these locations that we need in order for the state to flourish in terms of its resource economy. So it's important that we have a lower cost of energy that's diffused throughout the state that allows people to live and work where the opportunities of the state are.
All right, so we talked about Kenai. You've been to Kenai this past week. You've been to Ketchikan. You've been to Valdez. You've been to Fairbanks. And I know you were out in Wasilla at a fundraiser at CJ Cohn's house the other night, and I had to miss that one. Tell me about what people in Wasilla are really thinking, what's on their minds.
Oh yeah, that was a great fundraiser. The issues that I hear most about when I'm traveling in the Mat-Su Valley are really national issues. I hear a lot of folks that are concerned about the direction of our nation, the role of the activist left and how they've hijacked the Democrat Party. Mm-hmm. And how are we going to make sure that we have integrity in our elections? How are we going to make sure that we have a budget that's not so profligate that it's creating inflation in the real economy? These are the issues that I hear most out there. Obviously, resource issues are important out in the Mat-Su, but it's really a concern as there are a ton of patriots out there concerned about what's the direction of our country over the next 10, 20 years, and how do we get a handle on this and start to bring government back into its lane and allow the private sector to flourish again.
Oh, I love the Matsu, and there are, like you said, there's a lot of really great Americans, great patriots out in the Matsu Valley. So boy, you're down to the last almost 28 hours, 29 hours, 30 hours to go in this election. You doing anything else? You're going out to a fundraiser tonight, right?
Tonight, we're going to be at the home of Jim and Faye Palin, and I would encourage anyone who'd like to participate in a great fundraiser and a great event. Come on out. Everybody's welcome to join us out there. There's going to be a ton of great food. I'll give my remarks. I'll take some questions. It's just a way for us to celebrate a really hard-fought campaign. We've got some great leaders from the Matsu borough and beyond, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. We've gotten tremendous support. I've got support from about 70 publicly elected officials, current and former, as well as party leaders throughout the state of Alaska. We've got the mayor of the Matsu borough, the mayor of Wasilla. We've got Senator Shower. We've got Senator Hughes, right? We've got Kathy Tilton. We've got Amy Demboski. We've got just an incredible set. And I apologize if I'm not mentioning everyone, because we have over 100 co-hosts at this event. We've got an incredible set of conservative leaders that have come behind me in this campaign and are really excited about getting representation down in the Congress that's going to allow us to actually move these priorities we've been talking about in a demonstrable fashion through the Congress in a way that actually benefits the state.
Yeah, so that's exciting. So this is, I just find it so awkward that Jim and Faye Palin are throwing a fundraiser the night before the election. I just think it's really historic. I mean, that shows that in this state, politics is so interconnected, and these family relationships are sometimes tangled. Not all family members support other family members, and you just have to remain civil through all this. But then tomorrow is a big day. I imagine you have some people who are waving signs, because that's what people do on election day. I imagine you're still working. You're running through the tape. I've never seen a candidate work so hard, man.
All the way through. Just back to your prior point about how families can differ on politics. I mean, I think Nick Begich, my uncle, has actually gone out and thrown fundraisers for Mary Peltola himself.
Correct. Yeah,
my own grandmother on that side told me I could never vote for you. You're a Republican. I mean, we've got some wild activity here on this particular race. People feel passionately one way or the other. But look, at the end of the day, we've worked hard. I've worked hard, and I've worked hard because I believe this is a really important job for the people of Alaska. I believe this is an important job for our nation. Right? Alaska has an opportunity to solve many of the challenges that we're experiencing as a nation, but we've got to make a strong case for the state down in Congress. I want to do that for us down there. So if you're engaged in this campaign, if you've been kind of watching from afar, come out to our event tonight or join us for sign waving tomorrow in the Valley or in Anchorage. We've got 2 locations. They're out there on our Facebook page. Reach out to us, or just come on over, grab a sign, and enjoy. It's going to be a fun day tomorrow. Well,
really, it's an exciting thing. Now, everybody who's watching, if you have voted already, good for you. And thank you, everybody, for doing your part to keep our republic strong by voting. And if you haven't voted yet, I encourage you to do so today. Don't wait for the lines tomorrow. It could be a busy day, and you may have other things you want to do. Don't let the day slip by you. Tomorrow, remember, the kids are back in school. The roads will be a little bit more crowded. Some parents aren't going to be able to put their kids on buses, so they're going to be kind of jammed up, and maybe they run out of time. But you have time today to vote in the regional voting centers, and if you know where they are. If you don't know where they are, you can go to Division of Elections and online at alaska.gov and find the Division of Elections there. And you can find your closest voting place. So please go out and vote today. Regardless of who you're voting for, this is our opportunity to make our stand. And just really want to thank you, Nick. I've watched you work so hard through this campaign. I've never seen anybody work harder than you have to sort of earn the respect and earn the right to represent Alaska. So good job on your part. And I'll probably see you somewhere. Maybe I'll see you out at Jim and Faye Palin's house tonight, since I think I'm one of the co-hosts there. And for everybody else, have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, Nick. And we will see you on the campaign trail somewhere. from somewhere in Alaska. I'm signing off.